The alien station, Drexos Prime, hung like a forgotten relic beside a dying red star. Its light, weak and cold, cast a somber glow on the station's ancient metal walls. Inside, however, was a world of vibrant energy. Luminescent streams flowed across the floors like living rivers, and towering alien guards, clad in shimmering silver armor, stood like sentinels by every door. A human team, the first to ever visit, walked through a long corridor, their faces etched with a mix of awe and anxiety. Was this a genuine offer of peace from the Drexos? Or was it an elaborate trap? Among them was Evan Hall, a quiet engineer who felt completely out of his depth. He wasn't a soldier or a diplomat. He was just a guy with a toolkit on his belt, trailing at the back of the group, wondering why he was even chosen for this historic mission. He'd never even seen an alien before. Perhaps his keen eye for detail, his knack for understanding how things worked, was what the diplomats valued. Still, the feeling of being an imposter gnawed at him. The team's leader, Captain Rhea, leaned in and whispered, "Stay close. Drexos telepaths can read emotions. Try not to think anything dangerous." Evan managed a nervous chuckle. "I'll try not to think at all," he replied. A massive door ahead slid open without a sound, revealing a vast circular hall. The air crackled with an unseen energy, like the calm before a storm. In the center stood Voral, the leader of the Drexos. His skin was like liquid silver, and his large, intelligent eyes glowed with a soft blue light. He was flanked by 8 silent guards, their tall, slender forms exuding an unnerving stillness. The Drexos communicated not with words, but with telepathy, a direct touch of minds, a method that they believed cut through all deception. Captain Rhea stepped forward, bowing respectfully. "We come in peace." Voral raised a long, elegant arm, signaling her to halt. His gaze swept over the human delegation, examining each member with an unreadable expression. Then his eyes fell on Evan, and they stopped. The other Drexos guards immediately shifted their attention to Evan as well, a ripple of curiosity passing through them. Evan fought the powerful urge to look away, forcing himself to meet the alien leader's intense stare. Slowly, Voral began to walk toward him. The temperature in the room seemed to drop, and the silence became heavy, almost suffocating. The human soldiers held their breath, hands hovering near their weapons. Voral stopped directly in front of Evan and placed one long, cool hand on his forehead. It was a standard telepathic greeting, a simple touch of minds the Drexos had performed thousands of times. But this time was different. The moment Voral's fingers made contact with Evan's skin, his entire body convulsed as if struck by lightning. The silver leader's eyes widened in sheer, unadulterated horror, the blue glow within them flickering erratically. A sound tore from his throat, a sharp, piercing scream of agony. It was a sound no Drexos had ever uttered in the presence of outsiders, a sound that ricocheted off the metal walls in a terrifying echo. The Drexos guards, stunned and horrified, rushed to their leader's side. Telepaths didn't scream. Their minds were fortresses of calm. And human minds? They were supposed to be simple, open books, easy to read. But this human, this quiet, unassuming engineer, had somehow shattered their leader. Voral collapsed to the floor, his body shaking violently. The light in his eyes dimmed, and then winked out as he fell into unconsciousness. Instantly, the guards leveled their crystal weapons at Evan. The tips pulsed with a menacing purple glow, the telltale sign of a weapon ready to fire. "Stop!" Captain Rhea yelled. He didn't do anything, but her words were lost on the panicked aliens. To them, the evidence was undeniable. Their leader touched the human, and the human broke him. Something in Evan's mind had inflicted this terrible wound. Evan stood frozen, his heart hammering against his ribs, hands raised in a gesture of surrender. "I didn't do anything. I swear," he stammered, his voice trembling. "I don't even know what happened." A Drexos medic knelt beside Vorel, scanning him with a thin, glowing device. The medic's silver face darkened with fear. He muttered something in his native tongue, but the translator on Captain Ria's wrist caught it loud and clear. His mind saw something. Impossible. The human team stared at Evan, their faces a mixture of shock and disbelief. A wave of nausea washed over Evan. He had no clue what the telepath could have possibly seen. His mind was just normal. It was filled with thoughts of Earth, schematics for engines, memories of a quiet life. Nothing dangerous. 2 guards seized Evan's arms, their grip like iron, and began dragging him away from his team. "Wait!" Captain Ria shouted. "No!" Evan yelled, struggling uselessly against their strength. They pulled him toward a dark, foreboding corridor. The Drexos medic rose and faced the humans, his voice cold with anger and fear. "Until our leader wakes," he said through the translator, "the human must be contained." Contained. The word chilled Evan to the bone. Contained like a biological weapon, a monster. The hallway lights flickered erratically as he was forced deeper into the station, surrounded by guards who watched him as if he might detonate at any moment. Evan glanced back one last time at his team. Their faces were pale, frightened, and utterly helpless. The door slammed shut behind him, the sound sealing his fate. The first human peace mission had ended in disaster. The delegation was trapped on a hostile alien station, and Evan was alone, a prisoner of aliens who were convinced that he carried something terrible inside his head, something that could make a telepath scream. The Drexos guards pushed me through the long metal hallway. Their silver hands felt cold on my arms, their glowing weapons fixed on my back. The lights overhead flickered, as if the station itself sensed something wrong inside me. My breathing was fast, my mind racing. What had happened? I'd done nothing at all. Yet an alien leader had screamed in agony just from touching my mind. A tall door of black glass slid open, revealing a round, empty chamber. No chairs, no windows, no escape. Just a single white circle on the floor, like a spotlight waiting for its performer. They shoved me inside, and the door closed with a sharp metallic echo. I stood alone in the center, the silence so heavy it felt alive, like something was watching me. My heart pounded against my ribs. What is this place? I whispered into the void. The answer came as the walls lit up, covered in patterns of ancient Drexos runes. The door slid open again. 4 Drexos High Council members entered, taller than the guards, with brighter eyes and flowing robes. Their faces were calm, but I could feel a tremor of fear beneath their expressionless masks. One of them, who looked like she was carved from silver stone, stepped forward. A translator on my wrist activated, her voice smooth and cold. "Human, your mind has harmed our leader. You will explain how." I raised my hands, shaking. "I can't explain something I don't understand. I didn't attack him. I don't even know how telepathy works." The council members exchanged nervous glances. Drexos never showed emotion, but their eyes flickered with something close to panic. The lead counselor moved closer. "We Drexos touch minds every day. For thousands of years, we have seen thoughts from hundreds of species. Never has a mind caused pain. Never has a mind burned." She leaned in. "But your mind," made Vorel scream. I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly dry. "I don't have anything special. I'm just an engineer." The counselor shook her head slowly. "No human mind should be able to overwhelm a telepath." She gestured to the others. "Bring her." The door opened a third time. A younger Drexos female entered, her body glowing faintly blue, the sign of a powerful telepath. But she was trembling, her hands shaking, her eyes wide with fear. She'd seen what happened to Vorel. Still, she stepped toward me. "I will read him," she said, her voice unsteady. I backed away. "No, wait." The guards grabbed my arms, holding me still. The young telepath lifted a glowing hand and touched my temple. A cold shock shot through my skull. I gasped, fighting the urge to scream as a strange pressure pushed into my mind, like fingers probing my thoughts. Her eyes flashed bright blue. And then she froze. Her pupils widened. Her breath hitched. The counselors leaned forward, waiting. Her voice came out in a terrified whisper. "His mind is not quiet." The lead counselor frowned. "What do you see?" The telepath's voice grew louder, filled with dread. "I see storms. I see fire. I see memories that hit like waves. I see feelings too strong. Anger, hope, fear, love, all at the same time. His thoughts don't stay still. They move fast. They change shape. They explode. It hurts. It feels like his mind is made of burning stars." Suddenly, she ripped her hand away and stumbled back, gasping for air. "He is not a weapon," she choked out, shaking. "But he is dangerous to us. Not by choice. His mind is fire. It will burn any Drexos who touches it." The chamber fell silent. I stood there shaking, not from fear of them anymore, but from fear of myself. "What does that mean?" I whispered. "What's wrong with my mind?" The lead counselor stared. Her glowing eyes narrowed. "Human emotions are chaotic, loud, powerful. We knew humans felt strongly, but we never realized your thoughts were so sharp, so wild, so alive." Another council member stepped forward. "If one human mind can break two telepaths, then what will 1,000 minds do? What will 1,000,000 do? Are humans a threat we never understood?" I tried to step back, but the guards blocked me. "No, please listen, I'm not dangerous. I can't control my thoughts." The counselor raised a hand, cutting me off. "That is exactly what makes you dangerous." The younger telepath, still breathing hard, whispered, "He doesn't attack. He doesn't try. But if another Drexos touches him, they might die." The council members widened their stance, their robes shimmering with a defensive light. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. The aliens weren't angry at me. They were scared of me. A species that ruled with telepathy now faced a mind they couldn't read, a mind that could hurt them without even trying. The counselor finally spoke. "Until we know the truth of your kind, you will remain under observation." My stomach dropped. I wasn't a guest being questioned. I was a threat being studied. Evan was taken deeper into Drexos Prime. The halls here were different, darker, older, colder. The lights didn't flicker. They just refused to shine. It felt like the station wanted to hide this place from the universe. 2 Drexos guards walked in front of him, and 2 more followed behind. No one spoke. Their long shadows stretched across the floor, like claws reaching for him. Evan forced himself to breathe slowly. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a hero. He was just an engineer who, for some reason, carried a mind that scared an entire telepathic species. When they turned a corner, Evan saw a strange doorway made of glowing rings that rotated silently around each other. The air hummed with energy. A guard spoke through his translator. "Enter. The council wants to know what you truly are." Evan swallowed hard. What he truly was? What did that even mean? The rings parted like liquid metal, opening into a tunnel. Evan stepped inside. The space beyond was a small, circular room, but it didn't feel like a room. It felt alive. The walls pulsed softly, like the heartbeat of some giant creature. A long, half-moon-shaped table sat in the center. Behind it stood 7 High Council members. They all stared at Evan with their glowing blue eyes, bright, unblinking, and completely unnatural. The lead counselor, the same one from earlier, rose from her seat. "Human Evan Hale, the Telepaths report was confirmed. Your mind burns. It moves. It changes." She tilted her head slightly. "We must know why." Evan stood straight, trying to hide the fear that was shaking him from the inside out. I don't know why. I've never hurt anyone with my mind. I can't even read thoughts. A counselor on the far right spoke, his voice sharp and piercing. That is the problem. You cannot control the chaos inside you. You do not even know you are dangerous. I'm not dangerous. Evan snapped back. I'm just... A loud alarm suddenly blared through the chamber. The lights overhead flashed a deep, urgent red. The walls vibrated as if something enormous had just struck the station. The counselors stiffened. The guards gripped their weapons, suddenly on high alert. Evan felt something too a strange pressure, like invisible hands pressing against his skull. The lead counselor touched a panel on the table, and a hologram opened, showing the space outside the station. A massive, dark shape moved across the screen. It was long and slender, like a shadow made of smoke. Captain Ria's voice came over the intercom, filled with panic. Council! Something huge just appeared near the station. It's absorbing the star's light. The counselors exchanged horrified looks. It is early, one of them whispered. The lead counselor turned to the guards. Activate psychic shields. Now, but it was too late. A wave of invisible pressure slammed into the station. Telepathic pain. Every Drexos in the room screamed loud, raw, shocking screams that made Evan's blood freeze. They grabbed their heads, falling to their knees. One counselor's glowing eyes flickered like dying flames. Another clawed at the floor, gasping for breath. Evan stood in the center, frozen in terror, but he felt no pain. Only a dull pressure, like someone knocking faintly on his mind. What's happening? He shouted over the chaos. The young telepath from before stumbled into the room, bleeding from her nose, her voice breaking with fear. The void serpent, it found us. Evan stared at her, confused. What is that? Her eyes trembled with a primal fear he'd never seen before. A creature that feeds on psychic energy. It hunts telepaths, and our entire species is screaming to it like a beacon. The station shook again. Another wave of psychic force hit, and every Drexos in the room collapsed. But Evan stayed standing. No. The young telepath whispered, looking up at him from the floor. Why are you not falling? Evan took a step back, horrified by the sudden, terrifying realization. I don't feel what you feel, he said. Not like you. The lead counselor, barely conscious, forced herself to speak. Human minds cannot be drained. You are resistant. Another counselor gasped for breath. He must help us, or we die. Evan blinked, completely overwhelmed. Help you? Me? How? I don't know what to do. The young telepath pushed herself up, her hands shaking violently. You felt something, didn't you? A pressure? A presence? That was the serpent's mind touch. If you can feel it without collapsing, you can find it. Evan stepped back again. You want me to fight a psychic monster? I can't even meditate without getting bored. But the counselor grabbed his sleeve with trembling fingers. If we fall, human, the whole station dies. You are the only one still standing. The walls vibrated again. Sparks burst from the ceiling. The void serpent was outside, attacking the shields, feeding on their pain. Evan closed his eyes and took a sharp breath. He had never been chosen for anything important in his life. He wasn't trained for this. He wasn't ready. But he was the only one who could still move. He could feel that faint psychic pressure again, a cold, ravenous hunger drifting in space. A direction. A target. The young telepath whispered, Follow it, Evan Alley. Burn back the darkness. Evan opened his eyes. For the first time, he felt something inside his mind shift. Something wake up. Something powerful. And maybe dangerous. He stepped forward toward the door, his voice calm, steady, but filled with a new kind of fear and determination. Tell me where to go. The station shuddered, a deep groan of tortured metal. Alarms blared, their frantic cries echoing through every corridor as sparks rained down from the ceiling like angry fireflies. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and burnt circuits. Evan staggered out of the council chamber, the floor vibrating violently beneath his feet. All around him, the elegant, glowing Drexos aliens were either unconscious or writhing on the ground, their minds screaming in silent agony. This was the work of the Void Serpent. On the main view screen, a monstrous shadow twisted and writhed, a creature of liquid smoke and endless hunger, its tendrils reaching, probing, tasting. The young Drexos telepath, her own inner light fading to a dim flicker, stumbled beside him. "Evan," she gasped, "if you don't act, it will destroy everything." He swallowed, his throat dry. "What can I do? I'm just me." She grabbed his arm, her eyes wide with a desperate hope. "No, you're more. Our strongest minds fell, but you're still standing. You felt the serpent, didn't you? You can sense it. That's why you're alive. You're human, Evan. And humans survive when nothing else can. Survive? That's all he'd ever known how to do. But how do you fight a monster that eats minds for breakfast? The telepath's grip tightened. Listen, it feeds on their fear, their pain. But your mind, it burns differently. Use it." Evan closed his eyes, forcing himself to focus, to reach out with his senses. And there it was. A faint, cold presence, endless and ravenous. It was testing the station's defenses, feasting on the terror of the Drexos. He opened his eyes, a new resolve hardening his expression. "Where is it now?" "Outside," she whispered. "Its tendrils are trying to break through the main psychic field. Stay calm, or it will feel you." Evan took a step forward, then another. The metal floor hummed like a living thing. The serpent's psychic scream pulsed in his head, a low, gut-wrenching vibration that would have sent most humans into a panic. But Evan's heart, though pounding, remained steady. He focused not on the fear, but on the creature itself. He could feel its cold, hungry thoughts. He followed that feeling, moving toward the source. The corridor opened up to a massive viewport. Beyond the reinforced glass, space was a black canvas for a living nightmare. The serpent's tendrils lashed out, seeking entry. He felt its hunger now as a direct pressure against his skull. "You have to guide them," the telepath urged, her voice trembling. "Tell the soldiers where to strike. Show them the weak points." Evan's hands shook, but he closed his eyes again, sinking into his senses. For the first time, he realized something incredible. He could sense the monster's mind without being consumed by it. Its attacks were hungry, but slow, predictable. Unlike the panicked screams of the Drexos, his own mind was a solid, unyielding fortress. He could see patterns, openings. He snapped his eyes open and yelled, "Left side! Focus the shields on the left! Now!" The telepath instantly relayed his commands. Dazed but obedient, the Drexos soldiers began to react. Evan felt a strange power surge through him. He was directing their actions with his thoughts alone. A psychic wave slammed against the viewport, and more guards fell, but Evan didn't flinch. A fire ignited within him, turning his fear into raw, defiant energy. In the void, the serpent shrieked, a silent scream of confusion that rattled the station to its core. His mind was too bright, too loud, too intensely alive for it to consume. On instinct, he reached out not with his hands, but with his mind. He projected everything he was, his fear, his hope, his stubborn human will to live. The void serpent recoiled, its shadowy form twisting in the vacuum. "It's retreating." The telepath gasped. "Keep pushing." Evan focused harder, picturing the creature shrinking, fleeing into the darkness. He felt its psychic claws scrape against his mental shields and burn them away with pure will. With one final desperate surge, the serpent twisted, shrieked, and vanished into the cold emptiness of space. Silence. The station's lights flickered back to a steady, reassuring glow. The Drexos guards slowly rose, exhausted but alive. You saved us all," the telepath whispered, leaning on him for support. Evan just stared out at the now calm starscape. "I just survived," he breathed. "That's all." The lead counselor emerged, her eyes glowing with awe. "You are no ordinary human," she said. "You are fire. You are survival itself." Evan shook his head. "I'm just me." She offered a faint smile. "No, you are human, and your mind is a weapon even we cannot comprehend." For the first time, Evan felt a chilling mix of fear and pride. He was just one person, yet he had done what an entire species could not. The galaxy had just witnessed the first, terrifying spark of human power. The station shuddered as alarms blared, echoing through the empty halls. The Void Serpent had fled, but the damage was clear. Sections of Drexos Prime were dark, offline, and the telepathic guards who survived moved like wary shadows, their eyes glowing dimly with residual psychic strain. I walked beside the young telepath from before. She was pale and trembling, but alive. Her psychic glow was faint, almost a whisper against the station's cold metal. She looked at me with a mix of awe and fear. You survived it," she said, her voice shaking. "No Drexos could have. You can feel it, control it. You can guide it." I just shook my head, still dazed from the encounter. "I don't know how I did it. I just kept moving, kept thinking, kept fighting." Her gaze sharpened. "That's exactly why the Council wants you. You are the only one left who can stop it if it returns." As if on cue, a loud hum echoed through the station. The main viewport lit up, showing an incoming energy wave, far bigger than before. The Void Serpent was back. This time, it was larger, angrier, its shadow stretching across space like a living storm. Its tendrils lashed out, reaching for the station, searching hungrily for telepathic minds to feed upon. I froze, my stomach twisted into a knot. I'm just a human. How can I possibly fight that? But the young telepath grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. You can. You don't just survive, it fights you, and you resist. That's a power it can't understand. That's the human way. You're loud, chaotic, unpredictable. You can guide us. Her words hit me. I thought of the Drexos so strong, so advanced, broken by this thing. I thought of my team, trapped somewhere on this trembling station. I looked at the Drexos soldiers gathering around, weak but ready to obey. You want me to lead them? I whispered. Yes, she said. Show them what to do. Move fast, act fast. Humans survive, Evan. You survive when everything else fails. I realized she was right. I could guide them, not with commands, but with instinct. The serpent's attacks, its hunger, created patterns a human mind could follow, a mind that didn't play by telepathic rules. I closed my eyes and felt its presence again. The creature's tendrils were probing, testing, tasting the station's defenses. I focused, imagining them as weak ropes stretching toward us. Left side. Weak. It was concentrating there. An opening. I opened my eyes and shouted, Focus shields on the left side. Concentrate fire on the tendrils. Now, the Drexos obeyed. Slowly at first, then with growing confidence. They moved in unison, guided by my instincts, my mental rhythm. A coordinated strike formed, soldiers and telepaths working together. The Void Serpent shrieked, a soundless psychic scream that shook the station to its core. It lashed out, but my mind stayed firm. I could feel its confusion. It doesn't understand me. It can't feed on me. I pushed further. I imagined my fear, my hope, my stubborn human determination as a fire burning inside me. I projected it outward, a faint signal into the station systems and the Drexos minds, giving them strength, giving them focus. The serpent recoiled. Its tendrils faltered. It shrieked louder, twisting violently, but I kept my focus steady. I could almost hear its thoughts. What is this human? Why is it strong? Why does it burn? I pointed toward a weak section of the station's outer hull. Hit that. Hit the hole there, push its tendrils back. The Drexos soldiers fired as one. The void serpent shrieked again, a psychic wave hitting the station, but I felt nothing. I only felt its anger, its hunger, and its utter confusion. It couldn't comprehend how a single, simple human could resist it and guide a telepathic army. Now, again, I shouted, guiding them like a conductor, leading a symphony of chaos. Slowly, the serpent's tendrils started to retract. Its massive shadow shrank. His station trembled less. My focus never wavered. The creature shrieked one last time, twisting violently in space, and then, with a final desperate surge, it fled, disappearing back into the void. Silence. The station shook gently as lights flickered back to life. The Drexo soldiers stood exhausted, trembling, but alive. The telepaths slowly regained their strength. The young telepath looked at me, tears streaming down her face. You saved us all," she whispered. I shook my head, my mind racing, my body drained. I just survived. That's all I did. The lead counselor emerged from the shadows, her glowing eyes bright with awe. "No, human," she said, her voice resonating with newfound respect. "You are more than survival. You are fire. You are chaos. You are what the galaxy has never seen before. You are human." I swallowed hard. Pride, fear, exhaustion, it all hit me at once. For the first time, I realized the truth. We humans were unpredictable. We endured. We survived. And we could fight the unknowable. The counselor's voice softened. "Prepare yourself, Evan Hawley. The galaxy is watching. And you may have just changed it forever." I looked out the viewport at the empty stars, catching my own reflection in the glass. My eyes burned, not with fear, but with a new kind of determination. I was human. And humans were never simple. The void serpent was gone. But I knew this was only the beginning. The station was quiet, but it was the silence of a held breath, not peace. Drexos Prime groaned, a wounded beast straining under the void serpent's relentless attacks. Sparks rained from shattered panels, and the air was thick with the smell of burnt circuits and fear. Weakly, the telepaths whispered, their once brilliant eyes now dimmed with exhaustion. Evan stood at the viewport, staring into the crushing emptiness of space. He knew the serpent wasn't gone. It was out there, lurking, patient and hungry. And when it returned, it would be stronger. A young telepath approached him, her own psychic glow faint but steady. "They're repairing the shields," she said, her voice trembling, "but they won't hold. You're our only advantage, Evan. You felt it before. You resisted it. You can guide us. We can't fight it alone." Evan rubbed his temples, the memory of the Drexos telepath's screams echoing in his mind. He saw Voral collapsing, saw the creature's shadowy tendrils reaching into the station. "I'm just one person," he thought. "How can I fight something like that?" The telepath placed a hand on his shoulder. "You already are. Humans survive. That is your power. You don't fight like a telepath. You fight like a human." Taking a deep breath, Evan closed his eyes. He let his mind expand, reaching out into the void. There it was, a dark, hungry pulse in the vacuum of space, stretching and probing. Unlike the Drexos, he didn't feel just terror. He felt a strange mix of curiosity, determination, and raw fear. And he did not break. "Soldiers!" He shouted, his voice cutting through the tense silence. The Drexos gathered around him turned. "Follow my lead. Focus shields on the right. Fire on the tendrils. Don't let it touch anyone. Instantly, the Drexos moved, their movements guided by his instinctive commands. The young telepath acted as a bridge, her hands glowing as she relayed his complex strategies to the exhausted soldiers. The void serpent shrieked, a wave of psychic energy slamming against the station, more furious than before. Telepaths screamed and fell, but Evan stood firm. He felt the creature's rage, its hunger, and its confusion at a human mind that refused to shatter. Evan projected his thoughts outward, not just as instructions, but as raw emotion. Fear became fire. Determination became strength. Pain became focus. The soldiers moved like extensions of his will, their shields shifting in perfect sync, plasma cannons firing with deadly precision. The serpent's tendrils recoiled, burned and battered by this onslaught of human chaos. Its psychic scream rattled the very hull of the station, but Evan didn't falter. He focused on a single point, the core of its mass. Every creature has a heart. Find it, strike it. He guided them, strike by strike, shouting commands, projecting a storm of emotion. The chaos of his human mind had become a weapon. Slowly, impossibly, the void serpent faltered. Its massive shadow shrank, its tendrils twisting in confusion. "You're guiding them," the telepath gasped. "You're controlling the chaos itself." Evan's vision tunneled. He felt one final, massive surge of psychic energy as the serpent tried to pierce his mind, hungry for his strength. He gritted his teeth. Not today. He focused every ounce of his being, hope, fear, and stubborn survival, into a single, burning point of will. His mind blazed like a newborn star. The serpent shrieked in psychic agony. It had never encountered a mind like this. Evan projected one final wave of human will. The Drexos soldiers fired simultaneously, a unified strike guided by Evan's instinct, hitting the creature's core. The void serpent convulsed, twisted, and then fled, broken and wounded, into the endless dark. Silence. The station lights flickered back to full power. The Drexos, shaken and exhausted, were alive. The young telepath ran to Evan, tears in her eyes. "You saved us all," she whispered. Evan shook his head, drained. "I just survived. That's all." A figure emerged from the shadows, the lead counselor, her silver glow faint but resolute. "No, Evan Hale, you are more than survival. You are fire. You are chaos. You are what the galaxy has never seen. You lead, you endure, you survive when everything else fails." Evan looked out at the calm stars, feeling something shift inside him. He was just one man, ordinary. And yet, he had done the impossible. "Prepare yourself," the counselor said softly. "The galaxy has seen the first spark of human power, and it will never be the same again." He was tired, scared, but alive. For the first time, he understood. Humans were never simple. They survived. They endured. They fought when the odds were impossible. He turned to the young telepath. "What now?" She smiled. "Now? We prepare. The serpent may return. But next time, you won't be alone. The galaxy will learn that humans are not to be underestimated." Evan nodded. Pride, fear, and exhaustion coursed through him. For a human, survival was never just about staying alive. It was about changing the game. And Evan Hale had just done that. The station was quiet now. Drexos Prime had survived, but the scars of battle were everywhere. Sparks rained down from damaged panels, and the corridors reeked of ozone and burnt metal. Exhausted but alive, the survivors nursed their injuries. Evan stood in the command chamber, his body aching, his mind still burning from the aftershock of facing the void serpent. Around him, the Drexos telepaths watched with a mixture of awe, fear, and a new emotion. Respect. The lead counselor approached, her glowing eyes filled with reverence. "Evan Hale, you have done what no species in this galaxy could do. You have survived when all should have failed. You faced a creature that devours minds, and you stood strong. Evan shook his head. I just survived? That's all I did. The counselor offered a faint smile. No, you are more than survival. You are fire. You are chaos. You are human. And now, the galaxy will see what humans truly are. A murmur rippled through the chamber as Vorel, the alien leader who had collapsed at the first touch of Evan's mind, entered slowly. His silver skin shone faintly in the dim light. Meeting Evan's gaze, he bowed, a gesture of profound humility. You, human, you carry a mind unlike any other. I touched it, and I screamed. I fell. But you survived the Void Serpent when our strongest could not. You have proven that humans are not weak. You are. Remarkable. Evan's heart raced. He was just an engineer, a quiet man who never wanted adventure. Yet here he was, revered by a species that could read minds and feared by a creature that could devour galaxies. The counselor spoke again, her voice resonating with newfound conviction. From this day forward, humans will be known in the galaxy as the species of the burning mind, a species that endures, survives, and thrives where others fail. A species that can resist the impossible and emerge victorious. The words echoed in Evan's mind. Burning mind. That's what they called him. Him and all of humanity. Ordinary humans who could survive and fight with heart and courage. The young telepath beside him smiled, tears welling in her eyes. You didn't just survive, Evan. You led us. You showed us the power of humans. Evan took a deep breath, looking at the wounded but resilient faces around him. He realized something profound. Humans were small, fragile, and simple creatures, but they were also unpredictable. Loud, resilient, chaotic in a way that defied all logic. He felt the stubborn will of his species coursing through him, the courage to face impossible odds, the fire that burned inside every human heart. Vorel stepped closer, his voice a soft warning. Human, do not touch a human mind without warning. Inside it is fire and stars. Evan smiled faintly. That was exactly right. Humans burned like stars bright, dangerous, and impossible to contain. He turned to the young telepath. What happens now? She looked at him, a blend of hope and fear in her eyes. Now, we prepare. The Void Serpent may return. And if it does, you will not be alone. Humans will stand with us. You have shown the galaxy that humans are not weak. They are strong, unpredictable, and alive. And that is the beginning of a new era. Evan nodded, feeling a surge of pride, but also humility. He was still just one human, small and ordinary. Yet his mind had burned brighter than the Void Serpent, brighter than the strongest telepaths, brighter than fear itself. The counselor's voice boomed across the station. Let this be known. The humans have arrived. They are not weak. They are the species of the burning mind. Respect them. Fear them. And remember their fire. Evan looked out the viewport at the endless sea of stars. He thought of Earth, of all the humans who would never stop surviving, never stop fighting, never stop burning. And for the first time, he understood. Humans were small, fragile, and ordinary, but within their minds burned a fire that no one could extinguish. A fire that could survive the impossible. A single spark had been ignited, and it would burn forever. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more tales from across the galaxy. See you next time.